And we're live. It's live. We're all live. I'm live. You're live. Everyone is live. Manchester United and Brighton are live. Well, not live at the moment, but in a little over 24 hours and 10 minutes, Manchester United and Brighton will be kicking off the second Premier League game week of the season. Am I looking forward to it? Mm, a little bit here, a little bit there. So yeah, we'll dive into the feelings about this game. Because I think it's one of those where you play against Fulham, you're like, yeah, I can see where Man United would definitely be the favourites in this one. Yeah, it's understandable. Fulham have got a danger man or two, but ultimately, United at home, starting the season, raring to go, wanting to get stuck in, ambition to win things. And then there's now Brighton, a little bit of a different animal, just a little bit of a different animal. Um, for me, Brighton, very much a go and get them type of team. Not a team to sit back and say, listen, we're here to try and contain you and hit you on the break. They're very much we're gonna get in your faces. We're gonna rough you up a bit, and then once we've done that, we're then going to outplay you and kick you off the park. It's as simple as that, and it's with a new manager as well. It feels like with Brighton, they're somewhat able, and fair plays to them, able to jump from strength to strength. Um, no matter who's in charge of that club. It seems like the project at Brighton is well and truly flourishing for what it's meant to do. Um, Maybe if they'd actually changed the ambition to say, well, actually, Brighton, I think we want to be a Premier League winning team. It'd be interesting to see how they actually would plot, go forwards with that. But man, off the back of last weekend, Brighton. They are currently sat in first place in the table after having absolutely dismantled Everton in game week one. That scoreline was 3-0, could have been 4-0. I think it was Adingra had a goal disallowed. I think it was either offside or something, or I found the build up. I can't remember which way around it was. But man, you don't just go to Everton away as Brighton, right? First game of the season away to Goodison Park against Sean Dyche, Everton team, and just walk all over them. You didn't even have to really work that hard. They just walked all over them. So I think a lot of people that might have predicted Everton, yeah, Everton will be fine. I think maybe there's a little bit of actually I might have to rescind my statement. I might have to correct it a little bit. So yeah, I think Brighton have laid down the law, especially with last weekend. Early doors football TV. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good Ardagula. Good Ardagula. But be it early doors. Good to see you in here. Hope everything seems to be working as intended over at the airport. Hope everybody's behaving themselves. Hope nobody's crashing everybody else's cars or flipping them over, turning it into a Hot Wheels playpen track or something. That'll be absolutely carnage. Imagine that if literally the parking at an airport is sponsored by Hot Wheels. Disaster settings. At work and listening intently. Good to hear. Good to hear. That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. Is what we like to see. But we've discussed Brighton. We've discussed with Brighton. Definitely a big, avid threat to our 100% league record campaign at the moment. We want to be picking up as many points as possible. We've got an even tougher test next weekend with Liverpool. Liverpool, I believe that's going to be at Old Trafford as well. But Liverpool is tough nonetheless. We'll want to get a little bit of payback for their 3-0 drubbing, even though it wasn't necessarily, them deservedly walking away, just having convincingly destroyed us or anything 3-0. There was actually a sort of, Man United 50-50 possession, both teams working chances, Liverpool taking theirs. So hopefully that's a different story next weekend. But this weekend, we want to have a story and conviction. I think a convincing performance is what we need to have. One that's not going to have us with more questions than answers when we take on Liverpool the following weekend. I think with the performance last weekend against Fulham, we had the ups and downs with that performance. We saw some good bits and some not so good bits. I'm hoping that another week gone by, a little bit further integration with some of the newer players, such as the Licks and Mazrawis and Joshua Xerxes, getting them sort of bedded into the team foundations a little bit. I'm hoping that in accordance to the solicited plan by Ten Hag, that some players, though he wants to use them, he won't use them right away. He needs to bed them in. He needs to give them a little bit of time. I'm hoping that we go into this game with taking that chance and saying these guys are ready to start games and we're ready to play the ways that we want to play. So I think it's easy knowledge or common knowledge as to which way I'm going to want this starting 11 to go, like in terms of the team setup. I think it's got to happen that De Ligt has to start in this game, partnering Lissandro Martinez. Mazraoui's got to start on the right. Great, fantastic performance. Very neat, very tidy performance from Mazraoui last weekend. We want to see more of that Nasir. And Dalot on the left-hand side as well. So I think that as a solid back four. I'm hoping it's a back four that contains very well, but plays a high line, a bit of pace in it. Brighton will try various different means to break down that defence. Ball over the top, use pace in behind, intricate passing, pass and move, find a half, find the small half gaps, half spaces, and play one touch passing. It's hard to keep up. It is hard to keep up with, but I think with quite a modern defence, a modern setup defence, I'm hoping that it's a defence that can keep up with one touch pass and move. And if we can have that defence much closer to the midfield line, it should mean that there's no exposing this weekend, no exposing tomorrow, no fraudulent behaviour. Casemiro doesn't look like he's 60 and needs to retire by being a very slow midfielder. Might be very, very technically gifted, world class in the ability department, but my man can't keep up with 90% of the Premier League now. So we need to make sure there's none of that spacage going on behind. And Kobbie Mainoo as well can't fight the entire world on his own. He needs that defensive midfield partner. And if the spaces are closed, then I think Kobbie and Casemiro can do a job. Whether it's a good job or a bad job, I think we're yet to see. But I would back for this weekend. For this weekend, I would back that, but it needs to have the right structure in place, definitely behind the midfield, whoever it is. Casemiro, Kobbie Mainoo need to have the space behind them closed up. So higher line should solve quite a few issues, but then there will be other issues, of course, that we'll face in the game. Not yet, Fuzzy, not yet. So I mean, I'll touch wood. I'll touch some wood for you to make sure that carnage doesn't quite happen yet. But you never say never. Especially when it comes to an airport, there's a lot of people with a lot of funny ideas that will walk through those doors. Yeah, the less said about them, the better, basically. But anyways, the record for Brighton recent times, I mean, it's literally just all green. They've not even remotely looked like losing in recent times. 3 goals conceded in the last 5 in all competitions, well, in all formats of games there. 9, 10, 14, 17 goals scored. 17 goals scored in five games. I know some of it was friendly action, but still, you play like that in pre-season, and then you do it in the league as well. You start that way in the league as well. Does not show for good reading for us. It doesn't show for good reading at all. We're in for a long afternoon, very long afternoon. But I back. I want to back this team. I want to back this team to make it a very bearable long afternoon. I think there'll be a lot of hair-raising moments. I don't think a clean sheet is on the cards at all for Man United. I think we're going to be in for a fight. I think probably. I think based off of I think I gave a 2-1 score prediction to Man United this weekend on not yesterday, Wednesday's show, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, when we did the score predictors. I'm pretty sure it was a 2-1 scoreline, but it could end up being a 3-2, a 2-2, a 3-3, 4-3 type scoreline, because we just don't know what sorts of both teams will show up. Brighton might not have that half yard of pace or energy. We just don't know. I think they'll be well drilled. I think they've just signed somebody for about 40 million. I can't remember his name, but if anybody else in the chat knows who that person is, then that would be most appreciated. But signed somebody who I think media is plotting to be an influential part of the squad. And if he does come in, and that's the thing, Brighton Football Club spending £40 million on a player, that's going to be big plans for that player in that squad, because usually Brighton sort of spend like our Turkish club when it comes to transfer fees. They barely ever go over the 10-20 million pound fee. They're just constantly on the cheap. But it's worked for them so far. And if they start as they mean to go on, they'll have a very comfortable season, Brighton. Very, very comfortable season. And that's the thing. A lot of people predicted Brighton sort of 8th, 9th, 10th. Some people in the lower half of the table. I mean, if you play like that, I think you might be pushing for Europe as well. That's another team to potentially spoil the party for a lot of teams. So, yeah, watch out for Brighton, guys. Watch out for Brighton. And if you're Brighton, watch out for Chelsea. They'll come and poach your players again. Big up Hot Fuzz 44. How you doing, mate? I'm doing good, Michael. Hope all is good with you. God, I followed your game last night, Michael. Servette, Swiss team, Swiss cheese, Swiss Army knife. Man, could have been Swiss cheese. A lot of dangerous crossing going on in that game last night, and a lot of not dealing with the threats that team brought to the table. Could have been a very different story should people have known how to finish on the opposition team. But that's the home leg tied up. You've got the away leg to go to do now. Whether that's going to be more thrills for yourselves or more spills, potentially some spills. We'll have to see how that goes out. I think moral of the story at this point is just don't lose. Under any circumstances, just don't get beat. If you draw the game, you go through. I think that's the only base really that I think people are going to care about at this stage with these sort of games. There's a lot of banana skin games. Big up Michael Chelsea FC. It says early doors. Big up to your damn selves, everybody in the chat. Make sure you're smashing a like on the stream. It's not going to be a long one today because I do still feel a little bit slightly under the weather, and I don't know how long my beautiful ASMR white noise voice is going to be able to keep up with this. So you'll have to bear with me if things get a bit long. Yeah, throat goes a bit long, but got emergency cover. There you go, emergency cover. If it's not in the form of a pint glass, it's in the form of a carton. Can't go wrong with chocolate milk there, man. And I like the taste of the carton stuff. I mean, it's not too. It's just minuscule difference between the stuff that you get in the big cartons that I pour into the pint glasses. But that sort of sweet syrup, it's like a syrupy one, the one that's long life, not refrigerated. I find that refrigerated stuff is quite rich. It's almost a dark chocolatey milk chocolate taste. I think it's for very distinguished tastes, very delicate tastes. But for me, I'm a bit more sweet tooth myself, bit more sweet tooth. So yeah, for me, the syrupy stuff is the better. It's the better shot. But let's discuss the rest of the team. We've basically covered the fundamentals of the defence and midfield. How we discussed the high line's got to be in effect. It's got to be close proximity to the midfield. It's got to make passing or playing through the team difficult to really shut down a lot of what Brighton has. And it's not just in that sense, but also pressing from the front has to be a thing, and pressing as a unit. Because one thing that we've established, this was under De Zerbi, and I think it's best to test it, to test the mettle of this Brighton team under this new manager. I've completely forgotten what his name is. What's your name? What's your name, Brighton manager? Let's find his name. Fabian Hürzeler. German manager. I mean, damn. They've got their own Kloppy. Down on the seaside. But I'm interested to see if Manchester United can establish a high pressing from the front. And I think high work rate has got to be the name of the game this weekend. High work rates, attacking, defending, you name it. It's got to be the whole works. And I find that with the De Zerbi Brighton, they would play out from the back, but you would have to press from the front and close spaces down and squeeze them closer to their own box, and they start to make some mistakes. I'm intrigued to see if Man United can try and work that same sort of press and see just how capable is this Brighton team of playing out from the back, because I'm curious to see, because I don't think anybody really in recent times has tested their ball playing ability in various different ways. I think give them no time on the ball. Whoever's at the front, I think perhaps Joshua Zirkzee is the player to go with up top. He'll want to play. He'll want to impress. He'll want to put in effort. And I think Joshua Zirkzee, an ideal sort of player. And the thing is if you win the ball high up the pitch, given that he's got a bit of a creative eye about him, will look to connect the play a bit. Bring Fernandes into the game. Bring Garnacho if he starts on the left. I think he should, even though he had a horrendous miss on the weekend. I think the best thing for him to do is to play again to get the confidence back. But Ahmed on the right as well. Bring those other three in. Get them involved. High up the pitch. Turnover of possession. Connects the play. Short range passing. Quick tempo. Movement of the ball has to be pristine. But the pressing, the defensive work rate, I think Garnacho's got some good defensive work rates. Ahmad as well. Both players will track back. Fernandes, he given he's a passion merchant, he will want to run and fight for the shirt. And Xerxes, you got a bit of the desire with Xerxes, bit of the desire. And then also, if you do win, if you do reap the rewards with the high press, you've got somebody there that's got a bit of the technical nous to look after the ball higher up the pitch. And I think that's what the aim has got to be. Test the press, win the ball high up the pitch and look after it. Because one thing we can't do is, if we win the ball high up the pitch, is be too direct, be too route one with it. Try desperately. Got to have a bit of composure and a bit of patience with this. Afternoon from Lexington, Kentucky. Common Your Irons says, Lawrence Watkins, good to see you, brother. Hope everything's well with you over in the States, over in Kentucky. 2-0 will probably be enough to take us through, but that was very unconvincing indeed. Booze at half-time, according to the people who were actually at the game last night. Jesus, people already had enough. Even though you've won. So, yeah, it's a very volatile season, I think, for you guys. Very, very volatile season. Can't stay, wanted to pop in and show us some support. Went with a 1-1 draw for this match. Well, thank you very much, Lawrence. Your presence or just stopping by is massively appreciated. And not just that, but also the subscription that you did the other day. Thank you very much for your support, Lawrence. Massively appreciated. And whatever it is that you may be busy with today, best of luck to you, and hope it's a very rewarding day. Only seeing the highlights, given it wasn't televised on TNT Sports. Morning, Lawrence. Tony. Throw the kitchen sink at it, Fuzzy. I think I genuinely think that's the play with Brighton. I mean, it's not like if against Liverpool, if you try and be over risky, you're going to have some proper world-class talents try and, bury you knee deep in shit. I think Brighton, they'll have a lot of chances, but the quality to convert the chances depends on how hard you make them. I think cannot be overlooked. I think Everton must have made the work a little bit too easy for Brighton. United got to make things uncomfortable, make life uncomfortable for Brighton, and I think you'll balance the game out considerably. But yes, that's the moral of the story. Throw the kitchen sink at it. So essentially, the team that I would go with this weekend, got Onana in goal, of course. Play out from the back, high line, composure on the ball. You're going to want a goalkeeper that's meant to be ball playing. Supposedly, that's what the case is with Onana. We'll see. And somebody who's going to ride a higher press, because Brighton also will press from the front. So it'll be interesting to see how the defence and the midfield defence and the goalkeeper will cope with what Brighton do in their defence. Back four, Dalot left back, Martinez left-sided centre-back, De Ligt right-sided centre-back, with Mazraoui on the right. I think that's got to be the lineups. A bit of familiarity. The left-footedness, right-footedness, I think it's got to be the best option to go with for a chemistry reason, because with new signings, you don't always get the second naturism, like understanding what your teammate's going to do and sort of playing in accordance to it. I don't quite think that'll be fully set in just yet, but get as close to it as you can with familiarity. Got teammates at the previous club in Mazraoui, De Ligt on the right-hand side. Let them control that area of the pitch, and Martinez and Dalot control the left-hand side. And hopefully it's a high line, close to the midfield of Mainu and Casemiro. I think Casemiro is probably your best choice. Alternatively, at the moment, as per a partner to Kobe Mainu, Agate is still not here yet. It's dragging itself out, that deal, which I'll come on to it in a little bit. But yeah, I think Casemiro, though he hasn't got the legs, I think the best way to compensate with that is just to bring that other part of the team, the defence, closer just compact, compress the team, team width, team shape, team depth a little bit, just so that Casemiro doesn't have to have tons of recovery pace to make his area, his position on the pitch work. So yeah, we'll have to see how Casemiro handles that. But for me, the team around him has got to set up to basically where the weaknesses come in Casemiro's game. Rather than, it's not a case that you can just train it out of him, right? You can't train it out of Casemiro to suddenly be faster. You can't do that. You have to work on catering to a setup that minimizes, that suppresses the downsides to the team. And I think if the midfield's pace is a bit of a downer, then the best way to cater to it is to closing space, so that you don't have to use the midfield pace in order to control possession, in order to defend higher up the pitch, and in order to create the chances. You don't have to have somebody who's rampantly quick. But if you had Ugarte, then that's a different story. You could probably do something with that. We'll catch you soon, Fuzzy. Enjoy your day. Likewise, early doors. Hopefully, this nose will clear up a little bit by the time we get to tomorrow, because I'll be working tomorrow. I can't watch the game. That sucks. I'll be working tomorrow, so I have to keep up with it. Cheekily on the score, on Flash Score. I have to keep getting updates on that, and then watch the highlights when I get back, and then formulate the match reaction and give the verdicts on what I've seen. Give the reactions to it. So we'll have to hopefully it's a case that I can be a bit more stress free, seeing Manchester United doing a job. But it can never be that simple. Given it's Brighton, given it's the Premier League, given it's Brighton, given it's an away game, first away test of the season. Let's see you do it. Let's see you land at Manchester United. Take care, Michael and Lawrence. It's confirmed Ilkay Gundogan has rejoined Manchester City. All done. Thoughts, guys? Familiarity, experience, know-how, knowledge, and knowledge is a very powerful thing. And a bit of wisdom on the pitch, and just the experience, knowing how the league is, being able to fit in. It's like the glove mold has not changed, and neither has the shape of the hand. It's like you just put the hand back in. It's like, oh my god, it still fits perfect. And Gundogan, it's there's some people will say, oh well, they've signed an older player. Oh, Manchester City are finished. They're finished. Well, no, they're not. It's like with Manchester United, when bloody Paul Scholes came out of retirement for Manchester United, Man United still won the league. So it's not like you get a player that's, was meant to be old news, comes back, gets a place in the team again, and everything's all done and dusted. Like, oh, they're finished. No, actually, it can work opposites. It could work very much in your favour. And I think with Gundogan, given that he's a very technical, very talented midfield who knows most of that team, 99% of that team he knows. He understands, he knows them like the back of their hand. I think you could maybe say it's a match made in heaven or a fairy tale return to the story, but yeah, I think Manchester City, without really needing to go splash like a lot of cash, you only needed to go splash any cash to make this deal happen. And it's a deal that works. It should work. It's a deal that should work. So, yeah, I think Ilkay Gundogan slots straight back into the team setup. And, Manchester City, that little bit more dangerous. So, Premier League, watch out. Manchester City might just be back on top of the ball again, if they weren't already off the top of the ball, that is. Makes perfect sense, Michael. Fits straight back in for Pep. Familiarity. Just he knows the club like the back of his hand. He knows most of that team. It's yeah, yeah, it's going to be a struggle for most teams against Man City this season, I think. Though it would be nice if, when it comes to Manchester Derby, we can get some points off of them. I would like to see Man United get some points off of Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, and everybody else. Just take points off everybody else. Everybody in the league. Take points. Finish high on the table. Maybe. I know we're down in 7th at the moment. Sounds crazy. It's literally only match week 1. But stay in the running in the top 3, like if we can sit right at very, very, very top end of the table for as long as possible, just to see just how or where this Man United team really is. One thing I really don't want to see is cheap, really, really cheap points being given away by Man United this season. I know it's going to happen. But yeah, be as competent and involved in that title picture as much as possible this season, although we won't win it. Being involved is sort of getting people sort of thinking about, well, just this and that and this, and add this ingredient, mix it together. We might be onto something. We might be onto a winner. And yeah, I hope with Manchester United that could be the case. But we're not in a position to win a league title at the moment. But with the club's ambitions, they say it. They've said it. They want the Prem. They want the Premier League. They want Champions League. They want it all. They want it all. We're not in the place to win it right now, but next season, season after that, well, we've got to see the club's got to move as a one whole big unit. The adjustment of expectation and fulfilling demand as football people. How it should work between club and fans is supply and demand, people. Supply and demand. You demand it, your club will supply it. And that's the thing. Club fan bases don't really demand enough. They don't demand enough from their clubs. They just say, well, we're happy with it. Well, I'm just happy that I've got a club there. Well, the club's just happy that you just don't really care about pushing them. They'll do whatever because they know it makes you happy. It's a great move for everyone connected at the club. Experience is always vital at this level. Trophy know-how, but it's also got the talent as well. So it's a very deadly combination to have. A very, very deadly combination to have. But speaking of midfield acquisitions, Manuel Ugarte. God, this deal it's definitely felt like, in terms of the timing it's had, it's definitely felt like the Frankie de Jong saga, but it's like this saga, it's going to have a happy ending to it. It's not like one of those that is just de Jong rides off into the sunset with his fat, massive wage, staying at a club, and Man United has just sat there just like, well, this is great. Everything's fine. Everything's grand. Everything's spectacular. It's nothing like that. Nothing like that. It's I think it's very much the intermediaries, the financials, the number crunching. It's definitely been a blockade for Manchester United with this deal, a genuine blockade. And it's like you can see the club is struggling for the money side of things. But at the same time, I think what they're trying to do is make it difficult this summer so your next summer is a lot easier. And I think that's what it has to be, is if basically what they say, the reasoning for this summer, the difficulties in the signings or the sales this summer, what they say for next summer, we have to stick by what they say. We have to. The second they change, you have to call it out. You have to say, well, you said this last summer. We're not accepting this excuse because you said that that's what this was meant to do. So, yeah, we can't afford Ineos to do any sort of FSG nonsense where they, what is it? They under promise and over deliver, I think is what the term that they go by with FSG. So yeah, it's It's a madness. It's a madness, especially for Liverpool. I mean, the fact that they might not actually get a signing in for the first team this summer is crazy, genuinely crazy. Um, Ugarte, is it a permanent deal or a loan? I think it was going to be the permanent deal, but I think they've sort of angled it towards the loan this summer with the payment in full to PSG's demands next summer. So it's a loan with the obligation. That's what I think the latest structure of the deal is. Now, somebody's come out somewhere and just said, "Oh, PSG have completely rejected the idea of a loan with the loan with obligation to buy. They only want the fixed transfer fee that they're asking for. This deal is off or something." And it's like, well, that guy's absolutely full of shit. Like, what is he smoking? Everybody else, like, collectively has been moving with the same sort of message to this story, and then you just get the odd journalist that comes out and it's just like, haha, guess what, guys? The opposite's happening. And everyone's just like, who is this village idiot? Who is that village idiot? And yeah, it's one of those. It's got to be one of those. I don't really think that there's any truth to that story, because the thing is, right, is maybe that would be true if PSG definitely were just like, no, we're not selling Ugarte. We're not selling him. He's not open to a sale. They would have said, no, we're rejecting the loan. You know, if you want him, you pay up. Maybe that's where the story becomes believable. Is if PSG were in the stance, absolutely not. We're not selling him. If you want to buy him, you can buy him, but buy him on our terms. They tried to do that this summer, but I think they just know that our resolve isn't going to sway. And for a midfield that they sort of semi want to sell, I think there will be some form of a compromise there. But I think the message from United to PSG is, well, what you're demanding isn't possible for us this summer. So you either, right, you either lower the asking price or find another way to, you know, to structure this deal, or to find a compromise on your end. And I think PSG would have said, well, if you pay us in full, we'll wait till next summer for you to do it, but you can take him on loan this summer. So I think that the loan with obligation to buy, I think, is very, very close to happening. I think George Mendes, the agent for Ugarte, is sort of really pushing in the final stages in talks with PSG and Man United, supposedly, allegedly. He's probably going to tell Ugarte, well, you know, head over to the UK and start getting things set up for yourself, because this deal's going to happen very, very short term. So get ready for it, basically. So the Ugarte thing, I believe, is close. We're close to it, very, very close. And I think for the most part, the fundamentals of the summer transfer window essentially finish with the Ugarte deal, but there is the want to do an extra deal, but it has to be completely on Man United's terms, which would be a left back signing. As to who the left back is, it has to either be a cheap loan or a free. Cheap loan or a free, basically. And it's the sort of deal that I expected it to be with the left back. But yeah, who is to be the cheap option? Names have been mentioned. I mean, Chelsea bloody offered Chilwell, and I think we've all shut that down. Everybody and their grandmother has shut it down. Who said no? Chilwell can happily stay at Chelsea, and in the D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K team. Yeah, they've probably got that many teams. To be fair, they don't even have the under-21s as the reserves team. You know, the reserve. There's enough players at Chelsea at the moment to formulate your own Premier League for the reserves teams to just play against each other for 38 games, whilst the first team actually compete for the official Chelsea Football Club. You've literally got your own Premier League in Cobham with starting 11s, completely unique from the next, just playing against each other for 38 game weeks. I mean, imagine that if you actually literally that many players at a club. that they were playing football matches against each other and had their own interior Chelsea league. Can you imagine that? If Chelsea had that many players, they actually had their own Chelsea Football Club league. And Team A versus Team B versus Team C versus Team D versus Team E versus Team F. And they're all competing against each other right the way across the season. And they get their own little trophy parade. Maybe Chelsea don't need to go into a Super League. They've just got their own league. They just have their own league, hosted at Cobham. First come, first serve to get a contract with Chelsea. Yeah, we're going to slot you into, we're going to draft you. We're going to make it like the NBA drafts. We're going to draft you into Team Z. You're going to go into Team Z and you're going to compete with them this season. Can you imagine that? That would be crazy. Absolutely crazy. But never put it past Todd Bowley. So yeah, this is what the update is supposedly, that Manuel Ugarte is now waiting to travel to Manchester United for medical tests. That's what he's been told. Get ready to travel to do the medicals. The document side of things just needs to go with a couple of contractual bits and bobs before I think we've got the green light ultimately. Also, we'll quickly talk about this as well before we head on out of here. Man United acquiring the signing of Seko Kone, a Mali, 18-year-old player. I don't know anything about this player as to like what his position is or what his potential is. Defensive midfielder, supposedly. Defensive midfielder. Quite a bit of technical ability about him. I think he was apparently a standout performer at the under-17s FIFA World Cup with Mali in 2023. One for the future again. Sign him into the under-21 supposedly, but play him in that setup to integrate him before we sort of get him like first team ready. But yeah, another player. We've had Chido Wobby Martin. We've had get the other name. It's a bloke from Crystal Palace as well. There was another player from Crystal Palace. I cannot for the life of me remember what the name is. United Crystal Palace player. Samuel Lusale. I think it's Lusale. It's either Lusale or Lusale. But yeah, young winger, about the same sort of age profile. Yeah, so it's I like apparently Christopher Vivell is pretty much the spearhead for those sort of deals, or has been a spearhead for these sort of deals, bringing the younger players in and saying, well, you're going to go in at this level. This is your entry level into the club, and we're going to work to try and build you up to, get you first team ready, and essentially not make it so you're stockpiling loads of young players, but rather grabbing the very specifics and saying you are going to be there's a very big chance for you, or very big opportunity for you to be the next academy graduate into the first team. But I suppose that's the plus side to it as well. If Man United, it doesn't work out in getting them as the ready, academy graduate slotting into the first team, what you do have with these guys is that if it comes to needing to sell them, or if you do choose to sell them, the interest is going to be quite high. It's going to be quite high, easy, low value contracts. So a club in Europe can very much be interested and say, well, actually, pay grade is fantastic. We can actually go and bid for this player. You know, we can afford this player and we can afford good money as well. So, you know, that's I think that's probably the hope with some of these players, because I think, you know, Ineos won't look at this and say, oh, all of these sorts of players we're signing, they are definitely going to be first team players and will be here like the class of 92 were. Like, I think there's probably going to be the case that they're implementing the structure, like how Manchester City have it and how, in various regards, Chelsea have it. You know, the youth academy players coming through, they're given a bit of a test in the first team, see how they get on. You see the potential in there, but you ultimately say, well, not quite to this, not quite to our level. So when you say, well, this player, we can sell him, a club further down the table in the Prem or somewhere else in Europe can say, actually, we think that we can get the best out of him. So we'll buy him from you and we'll give you this nice big transfer fee. And Man United will be laughing their way to the bank. And I think that's probably a positive in Man United's case, because one thing Man United have not been doing is making revenue from player sales. We've always done the duty of spending the money but not recuperating it. It's like contracts running down, like letting players go for near cheap, for near free. You know, not demand, or not being able to demand good transfer fees for their players. Man United have got to try and sort of get out of this the rut and the rot that the previous regimes put us in, where we've had this issue with buying players expensive, giving them massive contracts, not being able to sell them, but saying ultimately, well, that's fine, we'll just let them go on the free, because now the PSR sat there looking over our shoulders, just like, right, okay, tell us more, tell us more. We want to tell PSR to fucking do one. That's what we want to say. Do one. There's nothing going on here. So PSR will go, okay, fine, cool. We'll head out. That's ultimately what I think Man United will want to do, is get the club into a position where they are never, ever in question with PSR or anything FFP at all, that the finances are good, because the club would be so well run. That's the aim. That's the goal for how Manchester United needs to be run. In terms of club ambition, the aim is to win everything. So, you know, you're not just getting big revenue streams from, you know, fans buying all the merchandising, player sales, or big sponsorship deals, or now the talks of the big new stadium. And then we can finally bury leaky roof jokes and all of that good stuff. But also competition earnings, right? Get the big monies from the competition earnings. The success on the pitch should ultimately reflect then the success in the revenue streams off the pitch as well. Yeah, make Manchester United be the club that everybody wants to be a part of. Everybody wants some of that. Can Ineos do that? I think they can. They've got they've got to have a lot of things go right for them to make that happen, but they can. So we have to play the long game. Unfortunately, there's not a sort of overnight sort of thing. We have to play the long game. We have to be patient. We have to wait for, you know, things to fall into place in the right way, before we see our club thrive, before we see it go places. Chilwell and Sterling are only allowed to leave on a permanent transfer, from what I understand, Fuzzy. 70 million for Sterling. Who are they trying to get? Oh my God. How much did Chelsea actually buy Sterling from Manchester City for? How much did they actually pay Manchester City for Sterling? Was that like about, what, 40, was it about 40 to 50 million, between 40 and 50 million pounds, was it? Because I know there was one thing about City, is that they never really demand stupid, genuinely stupid fees for the most part. For the most part, they don't. But I'm interested to know. Actually, we can. I'll probably do a search. Um, let's see if I can find that. Sterling. Everything is very recent time. Very recent time. £47.5 million. So, it does, Michael, it does genuinely, it does make you think. You do wonder. It does make the mind wander. Man City selling a trophy-winning Raheem Sterling to Chelsea for 47.5 million. And then you get Chelsea say, well, he's not won anything since being with us, right? He hasn't won anything. He's declined massively. He's aged. And he's now completely out of favour. We're going to increase the demand by about £22.5 million. In what bloody world are they living in? I don't know. I don't know. But Chelsea things. Proper Chelsea things. Let's see how they handle. Let's see how they handle the selling business with those two, because usually they can sell players quite well for good value. But I think it's got to be a challenge for Chelsea, because there's a couple of assets there that are not really all that sellable. They're a struggle. They're a struggle. They're a struggle to sell. It's like with us and Casemiro, us and Christian Eriksen, us with I don't maybe Scott McTominay is more sellable, but I think Luke Shaw will be a very difficult player to sell. Really difficult player to sell next summer. I really do. I don't think he's going to be fit at all this season. I don't think he's going to get a lot of game time. And I think by the time we get to next summer, the club's going to go, right, well, Luke Shaw's got to be sold. He has to be. He's got to be sold. 100%'s got to be sold. Tyrell Malacia probably easier to buy, but there's already clubs that would say, well, we'd be interested, but we just don't trust his fitness. So Malacia, another left-back player, that will be a bit difficult to sell, especially near future. It'll be difficult to sell. 47.5 million on 5-year contract in July 2022, just over 2 years ago. So still got 3 years left on the contract, and maybe that's why they're probably saying, oh well, 70 million for a player still left 3 years on his contract. No, I think they're probably doing that, such a high fee to pay off the outstanding wages. And that's the thing, when you sell a player with such a hefty contract, a really, really long contract, might be low deals, but if you want to sell a player early on in the contract, that's the risk you get with Chelsea. You put a player onto a really long contract and it really doesn't work out. You immediately say, right, that's fine, we'll sell him. But you've got to pay him off. You've got to pay off the rest of the contract. Otherwise, the other club buying the player would have to include it in the transfer fee. But that means the transfer fee goes up. So not only would the club buying the player would have to pay off the remaining wages, but also then pay the transfer fee for market value, and then also pay the wages to the player. It's not going to work. It isn't going to work. So I think with Chelsea, Sterling, I think if Saudi Arabia, I don't know if Saudi Arabia would be interested. I mean, 325k, that's mental. That's mental. 3 years left on his deal as well. Oof. Oh. I know it was Man United, some of the higher earners are sort of getting towards the tail end of the contract, so it's easier to pay off players for us. But even then, we don't really want to do it. But that's what you get. That's what you get when you get people who negotiate stupid. You can't teach stupid, and that's what happens if you don't have a spine and you just give a player what they want, stick them on a long contract, and they don't pull their weight. You can't just turn around and say, "Fine, we'll sell them." You got to burn through a lot of money having to do that. A lot of money. But anyways, guys, I'm going to finish things up there. Also, or just before I go, quick addressal to this as well. Jadon Sancho to Juve. Please, Juve. Please give us some money. Just a bit of money. Supposedly, Juventus have actually taken note of Jadon Sancho and thought, actually, we might need to sign a winger here, an attacker. A good bit of versatility and a good bit of talent might do wonders in the Serie A. And, it's a bit like Federico Chiesa. Federico Chiesa at Juve, probably a similar type of winger in Jadon Sancho. Might be worth a deal exploring. And, the wages might be a big question mark, but transfer fee, I don't think Juve will be too put off by the transfer fees. But that should be interesting. Should be very interesting. Watch this space with Juve. I think that's what's going to happen the last couple of weeks, or the last week and a half. The days dwindle in the transfer market. Some teams will get a little bit more desperate. So players like your Sanchos might actually be looked at. And also there's links with Marcus Rashford and Barcelona. God only knows why. I think Marcus Rashford is a Nico Williams alternative, to be honest, but that doesn't really make any sense because Barcelona struggling to put the money aside to sign Williams. I mean, with what Man United want for Rashford, you're going to have to push even more, put even more on the table. So I know that's not really going to happen. Al Hilal have released Brazilian left winger Michael, but Neymar is still an unregistered player for them at the moment due to injury. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I feel like Neymar's career is just over. I think his football career is over. I don't really see where he offers anything more on a football pitch, which is a shame because, a lot of talent, but I think gets to the latter stages of his career and it just becomes wasted. Take us back to the Santos Neymar. Take us back to the Barcelona Neymar. Give us that Neymar back. Not the PSG one. Not the Al Hilal one. Give us proper old school Neymar. The one that would actually make every kid with the compilations, compilation YouTube channels absolutely sweat with how much skillage there is on the video. Just like, oh my God, I can't believe you do that on a football pitch. Mate, that's proper Brazilian samba football. Literally not a care in the world. I'm going to make a mockery out of you. It's like Savio for Manchester City is a little taster of that, a little taster of samba football. And, ran Cucurella ragged, mad ragged. But that's what you expect. That's what you should expect with some proper Brazilian ballers. That's how it's meant to be. None of this fake passport bullshit like we had with Fred. Man would one day play like a Brazilian, the next you play like proper Stoke English born, like Stoke born Englishman. Like genuinely crazy stuff. But anyways, guys, I've got to wrap things up there. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you very much to those who've tuned in. big shout out to those who have liked the stream and subscribed. Up to 211 subs now, so we are motoring, we are moving. So big thank you to everybody who has supported the channel. Really, really big appreciations to all of you. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon, later afternoon, probably evening, with the match reaction to the Brighton game tomorrow, which I think by now would be half time. I think will be half time in the Brighton Manchester United fixture tomorrow. How in less than 24 hours everything could change. Everything could change in less than 24 hours. So yes, let's touch wood, knock on wood, and fingers crossed that Manchester United can get 6 points out of 6 by the end of tomorrow. That would be fantastic, and we can relax for the rest of the weekend, guys. So, of course, match reaction tomorrow after I finish work. So that'll probably be about sort of 8 to 9ish, I think, about that sort of time. And then we'll be around again for Sunday night takeaway show on 8 o'clock on the Sunday. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And yeah, big thanks to everybody. Enjoy your bank holiday weekends, and we'll catch you when we catch you. We'll see you when we see you. And take care. Enjoy the rest of your Fridays, people. All the best. Take care, Fuzzy mate. Take care, Michael. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you again on the next one.